Not me talking to the camera by myself in my basement. Oh, yes. That's exactly what's going to be happening. All right, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Haley and I help people recognize their full potential by exploring all aspects of the mind-body connection. I wanted to sit down today to share my experience of what happened when I had my spiritual awakening, how to tell if you're having one. It can be a really crazy process. I think sometimes we think of a spiritual awakening and we're like, oh, you know, unicorns and rainbows and happiness and love and light and woo, positivity. And I just want to tell you here today that my experience, at least, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, is totally the opposite of that. And I want to make it clear that, you know, spiritual awakening can sometimes get lost in translation, right? It's such a loaded term, I feel like sometimes, and it gets thrown around a lot these days. And I think it can sometimes get lost in translation. For those of you listening, if I had to sum up what a spiritual awakening is, at least in my sense, is a life-altering experience, honestly, or a moment in your life, or a time period in your life that you all of a sudden start to realize that there is more meaning to everything around you, to every situation, every person, every living thing, that there's so much more meaning and there's so much more that's going on that we can't see, that we can't conceptualize with our five senses. And then having this deep innate desire within to explore and to figure out, at least to try to unlock what that deeper meaning is. So that's what my spiritual awakening was for me in a nutshell. Was I had, you know, a lot of pain and pressure happen, and it led me to this point of really wanting to understand, what's the point of this all? Like, why am I here? What am I here for? And just questioning everything. I think that's like the biggest first thing that happens, is you just really start to question everything. There is so much unraveling that's involved with a spiritual awakening, so much unlearning, so much of facing your shadow. But it is the most beautiful journey that I've really ever experienced in my life. And it's totally changed the game for me. A lot of pain, a lot of pressure led me to where I am, and I'm so eternally grateful for that. That's what I really want to like start off, I guess, saying, is that if you are watching this, you're probably at least somewhat curious about this kind of stuff. That's probably already a sign that you're awakening spiritually. And a big part of that for a lot of people sometimes is things will happen outside in our lives, or things will happen around us that totally shake us. Things are crazy, right? Like an immense amount of pressure will come into play. And I think on a global scale, I've said this many times before, but 2020 has been one of those times of just insane global pressure. That's like so hard to even wrap your mind around. And I think that's why so many people are waking up right now. I've said it many times before, but I think that 2020 is probably, or at least now it's 2021, but this is like the most exciting time to be alive on this planet, because we are firsthand witnessing this unraveling, this restructuring, this collective raise in consciousness. That's the first thing I want to point out, is that sometimes it takes a great amount of pressure as our catalyst for change. It doesn't always have to be that way. It certainly was for me in my situation. It was kind of just this point in my life that really just forced me to dive inward, to question everything I had been led to believe, question my purpose. You know, you start to wonder, why am I here? Like, what is the point of this all? What is the meaning behind everything? And I think that's one of the first signs that you're probably going through a spiritual awakening. If you're questioning, you know, if you're looking for a deeper meaning behind things. Something else that I think is quite obvious that you're having a spiritual awakening is when you start to think about things like coincidences. And then you start to be like, okay, is there something more to this? This is just happening way too often. Let me tell you, in my opinion, there's no such thing as coincidences. So think about that too. Those things that you experience, those like synchronicities as we call them, those are also a sign that you're like waking up to that truth. You're becoming more aware of the things around you, or aware of those experiences that just seem a little too, you know, coincidental, for lack of a better word, then you might be able to comprehend. So that's definitely another sign. Whatever it is that leads you to start questioning things, like I said, doesn't have to be pressure, doesn't have to be a crazy, you know, unraveling experience, but something that leads you to start to really question things, and you want to seek a deeper meaning. That's the position that I found myself in, was just seeking a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding. Yeah, just in general, in all, you know, facets, like even in terms of conversations I'd have with people, or relationships, situations, events. It's like, okay, but what's the deeper meaning behind that? Like just this huge innate sense of curiosity that sort of blossomed from within me, and I didn't really know like where it was coming from. I think that's another huge sign of it as well. So the other thing that I want to say is a really big sign of this is that you start to completely change, not completely change, but you start to really have different interests that sort of come out of nowhere. For me, when I had my spiritual awakening, I really started getting into a lot of the esoteric things out there, like aliens, for example. I started becoming really fascinated with ancient aliens, spirituality in general, the law of attraction. I really started to delve into quite a bit more. Quantum physics, how energy, vibration, and frequency affect the world, researching Tesla, Einstein, Alan Watts, just like opening my mind to different even systems of thought, of philosophy, of religion. I never used to really be interested in that stuff. Like, to be honest with you, I never would have said that I would think that I would find that interesting. But I think part of a spiritual awakening too is that sometimes old things that just don't resonate with us anymore will fall away, and they're going to be replaced by new things that do resonate with us and do resonate with our path. So I think of this even from my alcohol-free journey. As many of you know, I live an alcohol-free lifestyle. I do not drink. I haven't drank for over a year. I've been completely alcohol-free. And a big part of that was because of my spiritual awakening. I started to just realize over time that I didn't need alcohol to feel good anymore. I didn't need alcohol to be this thing to allow me to have fun, to allow me to unwind. I found myself just feeling that way, like naturally on my own, and it kind of just fell away. Like, I remember the last time I drank, you know, thinking to myself, like, this isn't fun anymore. Why am I even doing this? Like, it just truly didn't resonate. And so drinking fell away from me, and it was a decision that I had made, and it sort of just was like a moment where I just knew. I literally knew that last night that I drank, it was December 30th of 2019, I literally knew in that moment, I was like, I'm not going to drink anymore. This isn't fun. I'm done. This does not resonate with me at all. And I could just feel such an intuitive sense of that lifestyle not resonating with me anymore, and I never turned back. And so I think that's something else to keep in mind, is that certain things will fall away, certain activities that you may have enjoyed will fall away. But it's all a part of your journey, right? Like, I'm not saying that you have to give up drinking if you go on a spiritual path. I'm just sharing my experience. And yeah, it just allowed me to realize that I didn't need that. I didn't need alcohol to have fun. I didn't need alcohol to be social. And a big part of that is when things fall away, we also start to unlearn things about like ourselves, things that we had been led to believe, maybe even things that we had told ourselves for a long time. And for me, one of those things was like alcohol being such a huge part of my social life and such a huge part of, you know, socializing. And then deconstructing that belief, like going inward and deconstructing that belief and saying, you know what, I don't need this to have fun. Like, I'm good as I am now. As I started to awaken more and more, it was like I really began to lose my taste for alcohol. And that's another thing too, is you'll find your intuition starts to increase. If you find that you have a certain gut feeling, right, like a vibe about something, listen to it. Your intuition is almost never going to steer you wrong. I always say trust your intuition. I truly believe that. So you'll notice that you have a heightened sense of intuition, of what is meant for you, what is right for you, what doesn't align with you. I've noticed that in my life tremendously now, that if something is not right, if something is off, I can pick up on it like immediately. I have such a heightened sense of intuition now, which is amazing, and I'm so thankful for that. And there's some things I've done to increase my intuition. If you're interested in hearing what some of those are, then drop me a little like. But you have to just pay attention to that, like think about that. And for me, I just knew intuitively that alcohol was one of those things that did not resonate, did not align with my path. And like I said, you start to replace that with the things that do, with the people that do. So don't be surprised if you're going through a spiritual awakening, if you start to kind of enter a little bit of a hermit phase. I know for myself, I certainly did. And I think the pandemic has made it a lot easier. But once I started to unravel and learn all of this spiritual information, all of these amazing insights about how powerful we are as creators, and just our journeys in general, I started getting so immersed in the information, and I sort of entered this like hermit stage where I literally, and I still think I'm sort of in it to an extent, to be honest with you, like I'm so good being alone, which is crazy to say because I used to be the kind of person that whenever I was alone, I always felt like I needed to have somebody around. I was the first person to jump at an opportunity to socialize, go to a party, to do this, do that, whatever. Like I was always down for whatever. And now I'm such a little like old grandma. Like, I love drinking my tea at night. Like, I love reading. And I never in a million years would have thought that I would be this kind of person. Like, I'm literally a completely different person than how I used to be. I truly believe that. And so old things will fall away, right? Things that are just like not really aligned with who you are anymore. But the things that are aligned are going to fall into place more. And I feel so much more balanced now. Like, I think about just from a health standpoint, how much healthier my lifestyle is now. And I think a big part of that was just my awakening process, was just like, again, unlearning some of the things I had led myself to believe, my heightened sense of curiosity for just wanting to learn more and discover more. And being okay with being alone. I think that's a really huge thing, that if you're watching this and you feel that, like if you feel that like you're alone but you're not lonely, like that's such a powerful place to be in, right? Like that's huge. And I love my alone time, I'm not gonna lie. To be completely honest with you, I'm a total homebody. Like, I love sitting here with my candles, my crystals, my books, my tea. Like, literally that's what I'm about. Like, it's a Saturday night right now and I'm here doing this and I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. So if you find yourself in a position where you really enjoy spending time alone to just learn, to seek knowledge, to seek more understanding, to dive inward, I think that's a huge sign that you are awakening a little bit spiritually. And something to kind of go off of that a little bit, like I said, sometimes people will fall away. You'll want to sort of just be by yourself just because you're learning so much and you're discovering so much. One sort of downside of that, at least that I've experienced, is sometimes you feel like people can't understand you. You feel like you can't really relate to people on the same level that you used to. Like, the things that used to interest me, the things that I used to want to talk about all the time, are not the same things that I want to talk about now. Like, when I talk to someone, I want to have a deep conversation with them about some of these esoteric concepts. I want to talk about, you know, aliens, all this is like spiritual stuff that I've learned. And sometimes it's hard to feel like you fit in, I guess, in a sense. Like I said, it's okay to be alone, and I want you to understand that too. Like, enjoy your time of reflection and solitude, but also understand that there are other people out there that are totally into this stuff. I mean, if you're watching this video, hello, I'm one of those people. There's so many people out there that are interested in this kind of stuff. And it's hard sometimes, but that's another real sign that you're having a spiritual awakening, is if you find that, you know, the conversations that you have with people, or if you're thinking about something and you want to share that piece of knowledge, but you think it's just going to not even be something that anyone around you would be interested in, that's a sign that you're in tuning to another level. And it's not in like an ego way or a thing of, you know, putting yourself above someone. It's just that, like I said, sometimes your interests will shift. The things you want to talk about will change, and the things you're passionate about will change a little bit. So think about that too. It's just something to keep in mind. Like I said, it's a beautiful journey, right? A spiritual awakening is a beautiful journey, and there's plenty of people that are on this path as well. So like I said, just, you know, find more like-minded people. When you start to open yourself more to this kind of stuff, you're also just going to naturally attract more people that are in tune to this, right? Because whatever you're putting out energetically, you're going to get a reflection back of. Life is always like a big mirror in that way. So you're going to start to naturally find more people in your life that are in tune to this, and everything will fall into place. You just have to kind of like trust your own process. And the last thing that I want to say is, if you think, you know, you're having a spiritual awakening, if you've been listening to this and you resonate with a lot of these signs, if you really feel like this is sounding like where you're at in your life right now, I just want to say that that's awesome. This is an amazing journey, you know, always unraveling and learning and unlearning and relearning, right? I mean, we forget who we are to then remember who we are here on this earth, in this beautiful life that we're given. So appreciate that journey for what it is. And the last thing that I want to say, at least in my experience, is that my spiritual awakening led me to understanding my passion and my purpose more so than I ever have in my entire life. It gave me complete clarity on who I am and what it is that I'm about. All in all, again, for me at least, my spiritual awakening totally led me to aligning with my purpose, unraveling who I am, questioning, you know, everything, unlearning things that I had been led to believe about myself, deconstructing old belief systems, limiting beliefs that I had put upon myself, and recognizing my own worth and my own potential, and that I was totally selling myself short for I think honestly all of my life leading up until that point, I never really realized just how much potential I had, just how much ability I had to create my own path, to start something new. And so I feel more aligned now than I've ever felt in my entire life. If you're feeling like you're resonating with a lot of what I'm saying in this video, trust your process and go forward with as little fear as possible. Because I've started a new path for myself completely. Once I had that awakening, I decided to start my podcast, my YouTube channel, my own business stuff as well. So it really was like earth-shattering in the best possible way because it all led me to where I am now. So I think also another thing to keep in mind is that if you do have a spiritual awakening, you really start to appreciate every experience in your life, whether it's good or bad or ugly or anywhere in between. Like I've said before, I am most grateful for some of the most challenging experiences that I've had in my life, the most painful experiences I've had in my life, because they are truly the pressure that has led me in the direction that I am now. And I know that they did not happen to me. Those things happened for me, right? And so that's something else to remember, is that everything is happening for us. Everything is guiding us on this path, and eventually we're all just trying to walk each other home, right? So that is truly what I believe. If you resonate with any of this, please drop me a little thumbs up. Leave me a comment in the description. What do you feel like you resonate the most with now? Do you feel like you find yourself in a little bit of a hermit stage? Are you feeling like you're really figuring out what your passion is, what your purpose is? Let me know, and connect with each other in the comments too, or whatever it is, and recognize that there are other people that are on this path. You are not alone. But yeah, I just wanted to share with you guys my experience, my awakening, and signs. And you know, if you are, awesome. Like, this is such a cool thing. And I'm so glad that you're open to listening to this kind of stuff and for tuning in. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, sending you so much health, wealth, success, happiness, light, and love, and I'll see you next time.